Welcome to CINEPRO, where we bring your favorite movies back to life with quick recaps, hidden details, and everything you missed. The movie starts with Jillian and Tom are a newly married couple who have just moved into their new home. Tom's father built the house, but there are still some renovations to be done before it's perfect. During dinner, the couple hear a noise coming from the basement and decide to go down there to investigate, where they find a large number of old artifacts that remind Tom of his childhood. Suddenly, a dog comes out of the rubble and climbs the stairs. Jillian wonders how the animal got in there, and they both decide to adopt it. The woman says that when she was a child, she had a stuffed dog just like it, but she lost it. That evening, Jillian and Tom go to meet their new neighbors, and the couple is impressed to discover that they have been friends since childhood. During the conversation, Tom tells his neighbors that he found a trunk of old things in the basement of his house. Among the many memories was one of Jillian's drawings as a child. The woman used to create stories with invented characters, and her favorite was Jack Pretzel, a clown capable of contorting his entire body. The next day, Tom accompanies Jillian to the supermarket, and she catches her husband talking to another woman who, apparently, he already knows. When Jillian gets home and looks through her mail, she finds a letter from her father, Bill Hope, and decides to tear it up. She then asks her husband about the woman he talked to in the supermarket, and Tom reveals that Sarah Winters and her husband were clients of the construction company where he works. Before going to sleep, Jillian apologizes for having mistrusted her husband, and during the night, she is tormented by nightmares. In the morning, when cleaning out the basement, the couple come across a door in the wall and wonder how it got there. Tom immediately tries to open it to find out what's on the other side, but the door is locked. He then sends a photo to his mother, and the woman also claims never to have seen it before. That night, Tom calls Jason to help him open the door, but the hinge won't budge. Terrified, Jillian starts to come up with theories as to how the door got there and starts to believe that someone broke into her house in the middle of the night to build it. Determined to open the door, Jason uses a sledgehammer to smash it down, but it's tougher than he could have imagined, so the man enlists the help of a rifle to rip the handle off. Jillian then opens the door and uses a flashlight to illuminate the tunnel she finds on the other side. However, after going downstairs, the trio come across another door, so the couple decide to go to the neighbor's house and ask to see his basement. When they get there, they realize that there is no door, which means that Ian is not responsible for breaking into the couple's basement. After apologizing for the inconvenience, they leave and spend the night trying to open the second door, but it is even more resistant than the first. When she goes to the psychologist, Jillian reveals that Tom has been making some phone calls in the middle of the night, but she doesn't have the courage to ask who he's talking to. The woman believes that Sarah is the person on the other end of the line, so when she sees her husband leaving the house, she decides to follow him and discovers that he hasn't gone to Jason's house as he said he would. Instead, Tom goes to meet a mysterious woman, and Jillian returns home upset. While in the kitchen, she hears a noise coming from the basement and goes down the stairs to the second door. After placing her hand on the drawing, the door opens. With the aid of a flashlight, Jillian observes every corner of the empty room and comes across a man dressed as a clown who, coincidentally, is very similar to Jack Pretzel's drawings. Suddenly, the creature runs out and Jillian is frightened. Minutes later, the police show up at her house and Tom tries to calm his wife down. In the early hours of the morning, he asks if Jillian would like to spend the night in a hotel, but she says no. The next day, while her husband is at work, the woman decides to call the phone number he calls every night, and her suspicions are confirmed. To Jillian's misfortune, Sarah Winters answers the phone, and she reveals that she is Tom's wife. Upon hearing this, Sarah says she'll have to file a restraining order to keep Tom away from her, and Jillian hangs up the phone. She then waits for her husband to come home to confront him, and Tom tries to convince his wife that it is the traumas she has experienced in the past that are making her distrust him. Without giving any explanation about the phone calls, Tom decides to leave the house and says he needs time to think. He then returns to the house of the woman he met the night before, and Jillian drives to Jason's house. She went there to try to find out if she was being cheated on, since Jason is her husband's best friend. However, he claims that Tom is not seeing any other woman and advises Jillian not to let the bad relationship she had with her father influence her marriage. At that moment, the lights start flashing and they don't realize that someone has just broken into the house. Suddenly, Jillian and Jason get into an argument because he's trying to make her believe that all her insecurity is a figment of her mind. During the fight, the masked clown appears and uses a screwdriver to stab Jason, who doesn't even have a chance to defend himself. When she witnesses the attack, Jillian goes into shock and can't even react. Terrified, she sees the man's head being stabbed several times, and the clown only stops attacking him when Jillian starts screaming. At that moment, he begins to squirm and leaves. When the creature disappears, Jillian calls the police, and a team of detectives begins investigating the crime scene. A neighbor said he saw a masked man covered in blood coming out of the house, and the investigator suspects that Jillian knows who this guy is. She wonders why this intruder didn't attack the woman, but Jillian doesn't have the answer to that question either. That evening, while walking through the garden of her house, she's approached by Ian. The man reveals that he has heard what happened and is sorry that Jillian had to go through such a terrible situation. During the conversation, Tom appears at the window and Ian leaves. A few days after the attack, Jillian decides to visit her old house, where she lived with her mother. When she gets there, she's greeted by Pam, the current resident, and the woman invites her in. They have coffee together, and Pam receives a phone call from her daughter. Meanwhile, Jillian takes the opportunity to look around her old room, as she remembers dreaming about the clown coming out of the closet. However, when she gets there, she hears Pam's voice and has to go back down to the second floor. Hours later, when the woman goes out for a walk with her cat, Jillian breaks into the house and returns to the bedroom. After tearing off the wallpaper, she finds a small door inside the closet and manages to open it, then finds Jack's parts inside. When she returns home, Jillian can't stop thinking about what she's seen, and the next morning, while changing her clothes, she realizes that she's being watched. Immediately, the woman goes to call her husband, and Tom walks into the bathroom with a knife in his hands, but finds no one inside. Stunned, Jillian goes to see her psychologist and reveals that the clown she invented as a child has become real and now won't stop chasing her. However, Abel tries to convince her that it's all just her mind trying to trick her, which makes Jillian furious. When she returns home, she meets Ian in the garden, and the man invites her for a drink. He then takes the opportunity to ask about the door his neighbor found in the basement. Since Ian is a psychology student, Jillian thinks it's a good idea to share with him what's been going on in her life, and tells him that it was Jack Pretzel, a clown she drew as a child, who eliminated Jason. The man then relates the figure of the clown to a guardian, who eliminated Jason the moment he and Jillian were arguing. Meanwhile, Tom pays a visit to a therapist who tries to help him deal with the problems he is facing with Sarah. Vanessa then takes him to a bathtub where her patients are left alone to get in touch with their deepest emotions. After putting on his headphones, Tom gets into the bathtub and tries to relax while doing a meditation exercise. Just then, Jillian answers a call that should have been received by her husband and hears Sarah's voice ordering Tom to stay away from her and her family. These words arouse great fury in Jillian, which makes Jack Pretzel go after Tom for revenge. The contortionist clown shows up at Vanessa's house and steals one of her knives. He then starts chasing the woman. Terrified, she locks the door to her living room and grabs a gun from her drawer. However, she soon discovers that the shots are unable to eliminate the creature, which continues to move even after being hit several times. After getting rid of the woman, Jack Pretzel goes after Tom, but the man manages to dodge his blows and has to fight to avoid being drowned by the clown. Luckily, he manages to get up from the bath and escape, but he ends up slipping and is once again captured by the creature. When Tom was about to have his chest pierced, Vanessa, who was still alive, used her last breath to shoot the monster and open a gap for her patient to escape. Terrified, Tom runs through the house and finds the keys to the therapist's car, so he gets into the vehicle and manages to escape before Jack can reach him. However, when he leaves the garage, the man has an accident and is taken to hospital. Minutes later, Jillian shows up and the detectives show the couple the video of the attack that took place in the bathtub. Once again, the policemen wonder why all the attacks are aimed at people who are close to Jillian, but they can't find an answer. When the couple return home, Jillian tells them that when she was a child, Jack used to hide in her closet to protect her, and recently, she found the remains of the clown's body inside. Somehow, Jack has returned and claimed 2 victims, so Tom asks why he was targeted by the clown. Just then, Jillian asks about Sarah again, and the clown, who was injured, recovers thanks to the strong emotions the woman has aroused. Jillian reveals that in her last phone call with Sarah Winters, she heard a baby crying and asks if her husband had a child with the woman. The man then claims that the affair happened when he and Jillian were starting a relationship. As Sarah is married, her husband thinks the child is his, and the woman doesn't want him to find out the truth, so she tries to keep Tom away. As Jillian's anger grows, the clown approaches the house, but Tom manages to get rid of him when he goes for a therapy session with his wife. During the consultation, Abel again refers to Jillian's imaginary friend as a mere figment of her mind, making the woman even more stressed. Suddenly, the lights start flashing and they hear footsteps coming from outside, so the psychologist opens the door in an attempt to prove that there is no monster stalking his patient. Just then, Jack bursts through the window and breaks Abel's neck. Quickly, the couple run out of the office and get into Ian's car, who has gone there to rescue them. The man then takes his neighbors to his house and reveals that he has the same gift as Jillian. According to him, Jack Pretzel is the result of the woman's frustrations and anxieties and is invoked as a defense mechanism in her mind. Logically, Tom doesn't believe that what Ian is saying can be true, but Jillian is desperate, so she asks what she needs to do to eliminate the creature once and for all. However, the man claims that Jack is part of her, so Jillian doesn't have to eliminate him. She just has to learn to control him. To prove that what he is saying is true, Ian demonstrates his abilities and uses the power of his mind to create a door in the wall of his room. When they open it, the couple see a cat coming out of it, and Tom can no longer deny to himself that Jack is a supernatural creature created by his wife. While he feeds, Ian explains that when Jillian learns to control her powers, she will be able to make the doors disappear so that nothing else can come out of them. Until Jillian learns how to control Jack, Ian says that imprisoning him is the best way to ensure that he doesn't harm anyone else. To do this, Tom needs to provoke strong emotions in his wife, because only then will Jack be drawn to him. Then the man decides to tell the whole truth about Sarah Winters, and reveals that he has always dreamed of being a father, but knows that he will never be able to build a family with Jillian thanks to her temper. So he wants to take over Sarah's son, and have the right to be part of the boy's life, which is why he's always going after the woman. After saying these words, Tom leaves the room and runs into Jack. Just then, Jillian receives a call from her father, and he says he needs to see her in person. Instead of attacking Tom, the clown runs towards his creator and uses his acrobatics to try to make her smile. Then they approach, and Jillian feels no fear. As she hugs that macabre being, the woman feels safe and supported, just like when she was a child. After hugging her, Jack lies down in the corner of the room, and Jillian closes the door. Just then, she sees her husband arguing with Sarah Winters in the garden, and all her negative feelings surface again. Then Jack wakes up and tries to get out of the basement, but she manages to lock him in, and Ian helps the woman to control herself. However, the clown escapes through the window and cuts Sarah's leg, who flees with Tom into the forest. While they try to hide from the clown, Sarah reveals the real reason she went to Tom's house. To prove that he is not her son's father, she decided to do a DNA test, and it proved that there is no degree of kinship between Tom and the boy. As Sarah has a leg injury and can't run, Tom decides to come out of hiding to get help and ends up being found by the monster. While being chased, he ends up in the gym of a building, and Jack manages to knock him into the pool. When Jillian shows up and sees her husband in trouble, she enlists Ian's help to focus and channel all her fury into the clown. At the woman's command, the creature frees Tom and then explodes in the water. Hours later, Sarah is taken to hospital and has the opportunity to have a private conversation with Jillian. At this point, she claims that Tom is not the father of her child, and Jillian decides to leave with Ian. She doesn't want to go home, so her neighbor takes her to a cottage and promises to teach her how to control her powers. That night, while Jillian is asleep, Ian hears some messages arriving on her cell phone and discovers where her father is staying. As he hasn't been able to speak to his daughter, Bill contacts Tom and also reveals where he is staying. Minutes later, Bill receives a visitor and is surprised by the arrival of Ian, who is also his son. The man is the fruit of another relationship that Bill was keeping secret in. Since he was a child, he had shown very suspicious behavior. Knowing that Ian is completely insane, Bill orders him to leave Jillian alone. Then, to stop the old man from telling his half-sister the truth, Ian uses his powers to summon Tall Boy and orders the monster to eliminate his own father. When he arrives at the inn, Tom sees Ian getting into his vehicle, and as soon as his neighbor leaves, he goes to talk to his father-in-law, but Bill's body is no longer in the room. After using his powers to summon Tall Boy, Ian gets hungry and devours a huge amount of food inside the car. The next morning, he starts Jillian's training as if nothing had happened and helps his half-sister create a new door. When she opens it, Jillian sees a deformed monster coming out of it and is shocked, but the creature perishes soon after. Meanwhile, Tom is at home with his dog and can't talk to Jillian because Ian has broken her cell phone. Suddenly, he sees another black pug running around the garden and chases it. The animal leads him to Ian's house, and upon entering, Tom finds several hidden doors in the basement along with the remains of other animals and photos of Jillian as a child. That afternoon, Jillian rummages through the cottage and finds the toy dog she lost as a child. Over breakfast, she asks her neighbor to drive her back to town, and they both see the shadow of someone inside Ian's house. When they get there, they run into Tom, and the man asks what he was doing at the inn the night before, but Ian says he was at the cottage the whole time. Tom then reveals that he received a call from Bill and went to meet him at his lodgings, where he saw Ian leaving. He then shows Jillian family photos that the man was hiding in the basement of his house. When faced with all that evidence, the woman comes to the conclusion that Ian is her half-brother, and he confirms her theory. The man then asks her to accompany him to the garage and shows her Bill's body being devoured by the dogs he raised. Immediately, Jillian takes Tom's phone and calls the police. When the detectives arrive at the scene, Ian confesses to the crime and reveals that he was also responsible for Jason and Vanessa's eliminations. Relieved to have finally gotten rid of Ian, the couple decide to celebrate this victory, so they spend the whole night together. As a result of their relationship, a new door is formed and Tom decides to open it to see what's inside. At that moment, they come across a deformed baby with an incomplete face and no limbs. Despite the creature's strangeness, Jillian decides to keep it, but Tom won't accept the monster as his son. After confessing his crimes, Ian is taken to the police station, and on the way, the officers are surprised by the arrival of Tallboy, who rips out the windshield of the car and cuts the detective's neck. The monster then eliminates the woman and frees Ian, who returns to his neighborhood and finds Tom. Seeing a policeman approaching, Tom asks for his help to stop the man, but he too ends up being eliminated by Tallboy. Ian then creates a new door, and out of it comes a red monster. Meanwhile, Jillian is in the room with the baby she created and sees the little monster perish in her arms. After the creature's elimination, she goes to find Tom and sees a message left by Ian in which he tells her where her sister can find him. When he wakes up, Tom realizes that he has been captured and notices that Ian has severe stomach pains. For some reason, summoning two monsters has drained all his energy, so he can barely walk. So Tom seizes an opportune moment to escape, and Ian sends Tallboy after him. When she gets there, Jillian is caught by a security guard and he asks her why she has broken into that place. Just then, Ian's creatures approach and brutally eliminate the guard. Terrified, Jillian runs away and looks for a place to hide, as her brother has spread monsters everywhere. During her escape, she finds her husband, who has managed to escape but is injured. In an attempt to get help to escape, Jillian decides to summon Jack again, but Ian uses his powers to prevent her from calling her guardian. Suddenly, Tom starts acting suspiciously and Jillian injures his hand. At this point, she discovers that it's just a replica created by Ian and decides to run away. As the creature approaches, Jillian uses a wooden stake to pierce its abdomen, and then Tom approaches. To prove that he is her real husband, the man cuts off his hand and the couple band together to survive. In the morning, they try to run to the exit of the condominium, but are stopped by Ian, who sends Tallboy to eliminate Tom. The hooded man's plan consists of convincing Jillian to stay by his side so that the two of them can combine their powers to create a whole new world. However, Ian knows that his sister will never agree to ally herself with him as long as Tom is in the way, so he must eliminate him. Once again, Jillian tries to summon Jack and Tom distracts Tallboy in order to buy time for his wife. When she finally manages to create the door, the clown appears and starts a duel against Tallboy. The creature then relies on its agility to evade the attacks and steal the chainsaw, which it uses to cut its enemy's head in half. The plan now is to eliminate Ian, because only then will the other creatures disappear. Noticing that he has been targeted by the trio, the man has to flee, but he can't get very far due to his stomachache. After devouring a bar of chocolate, Ian manages to gather the strength to bring Tallboy to life and continues to try to escape. He then hides in an abandoned house and is followed by Jack. The couple then split up to look for Ian. When she opens one of the rooms, Jillian finds a version of herself that was created by her brother, and only then does she realize how obsessed Ian is with her. When she finally finds the madman, the woman is faced with a room full of doors, and Ian tries to convince her to ally herself with him. However, when he realizes that Jillian will never agree to be part of his plan, the villain attacks her and Jack rushes to protect her. At that moment, he is struck by Tallboy, who cuts the clown's body in half. Tom then appears and manages to lock the creature out of the room. Realizing that Ian will not give up on eliminating Tom, Jillian strikes him with a knife and pierces his chest, but he is still alive. Then, when Tallboy manages to destroy the door and runs to save his master, the couple run away and the creature ends up attacking Ian. The moment a man perishes, all the doors he created disappear, as do the monsters that came out of them. Months after going through this traumatic period, the couple finally achieve their big dream and have a daughter together. What Jillian and Tom don't realize is that the little girl has inherited her mother's powers and, like her, is also capable of creating doors through which mysterious creatures come out. And if you like the video, like and subscribe for more series recaps. See you next time.